Surprise, HeroQuest fans. All right, I came home from work. I was getting dinner ready. I did not think that we were going to get another leak. Another leak posted in the HeroQuest fans Discord by Archeon or Archeon. Sounds like, once again, somebody on Facebook is tipping people off that AliExpress, the infamous Chinese site that has some questionable listings, is once again apparently scooping or leaking what we think is most likely more info, more miniatures from the upcoming Avalon Hill HeroQuest expansion, Wizards of Morcar. That was a mouthful, but there you go. So looking at the picture right now, once again, I I'm ready to believe it's all real. I'm ready to believe it all. So thanks to the people who posted this. Again, not condoning piracy, not promoting, glorifying IP infringement in any way, but I think it is interesting and I think it is useful for our speculations about this upcoming expansion, which I mean, SPIEL Essen is like 3 days away. So looking at this picture, I mean, it's a little hard for me to tell if these figures are like black or if they're dark blue. But if they're a dark blue color, I mean, tricks of the lighting, flash camera, can mess with colors, as we know. And these are not high quality photos. But if they are dark blue, kind of a midnight blue color, that would actually match what the original figures look like. Because as we've said before, Wizards of Morcar is a HeroQuest expansion from 1992, came out in Europe. It had only 5 quests. It had 4 plastic miniatures, which were bad guys, the Wizards of Morcar. Morcar, of course, being the European name for the evil sorcerer that we call Zargon in North America, and he's called Zargon in the remake. He was called Grimdead in Japan. But anyway, all that trivia aside, looking at these figures, once again, we have some examples of. Well, let's brighten that up a little bit. Okay, so I'll just flip that over. Okay, so we have what to me is very clearly on the far left. This is the High Mage. So he's got the pointed hat. It's hard to see his face, but I mean, the brim of the hat kind of goes down over the face. Looks like a beard. He's got the crescent on the head of his staff. He's got the fingers pointed. It's a little hard to see the rest of his outfit, but it's very reminiscent of the classic era figure. And this figure in the very middle is very obviously to me the Necromancer. He's got a skull in one hand, he's got a scythe in the other, instead of a curved knife like a cultist. He's got this kind of bone breech clout or whatever you call it. It's hard to see his face once again, but that to me says Necromancer. And of course, you got this little stub of a sprue. It's hastily cut out. So once again, you question, are these factory seconds? Were these just like left on the factory floor? Did somebody sneak in after Avalon Hill did their casting to like make some extra copies to try to make some extra money on the side? Again, I'm not saying buy these, but just look what we're seeing here. Then over to the right, we got the Stormmaster. Now it is a little different than what we've seen. I mean, he just kind of looked like I don't know, an ancient desert dweller with a cloak, cape. This guy looks like he's either got hair billowing up in the air or maybe some like antlers, kind of like a, I don't know, a human animal hybrid guy, or are they like devil horns? I don't know. I guess to me they look more like antlers. It could be a headdress though. It might not be. He's actually part animal and part man. But the Stormmaster is another sorcerer. Now this figure on the far right, I don't know what that is. I don't think that looks like anything that we've ever seen before in HeroQuest. But I gotta admit, my first gut reaction was Sir Ragnar. Why? Because he's got a beard. Well, lots of HeroQuest characters have beards. But look how he's standing. The miniature that they released for Sir Ragnar in the Mythic HasLab set. Actually, it wasn't. I shouldn't say Mythic. It was included with everybody who got a copy of the crowd-funded HeroQuest from 2021, who got the game system. Like you paid $100, you got the game system. You got a Sir Ragnar figure, and it specifically said that this figure is unique to this campaign. This version of this character is not going to be available elsewhere. When Rise of the Dread Moon came out a couple years now ago, um, people were speculating, okay, we see this image and it's pretty obviously Sir Ragnar. He's like this well-dressed gentleman knight. He's got a white beard and flowing hair and a sword and everything. But we never actually saw a figure of him. So a lot of us have been wondering, okay, when's Sir Ragnar going to come out? Okay, maybe he won't be the prisoner version where he's holding the torch overhead, with his arm out. He's, more scraggly and he's got, chains on his arms and all that. I wonder if this is supposed to be like just Sir Ragnar just as he is. Or maybe this is like his corrupted form because, spoilers, he's revealed as a traitor throughout the storyline later on. You don't know that at first. And of course, as a kid who grew up with the North American version of HeroQuest, I never knew that he was intended to be a traitor. But apparently, way back in 1989, it was like, surprise, this guy you rescued. Turns out he was either evil all along or he turned evil at some point. But I don't know. It might be Sir Ragnar. What's that in his right arm? What's he holding? It could be a flail, like a chain with a ball on the end, a weapon, which was cool if it is, because we haven't seen a flail in the new HeroQuest. I mean, in the old one, the orcs had them. There were some orcs that had flails. They had the ball and chain weapon. Some who had cleavers, some who had swords of various kinds. In the new version, we got different things. We got a mace, we got an axe, we got a sword, we got a bow, but we didn't get a flail. So if that's a flail, that'd be pretty cool. Or what if it's something else? What if it kind of makes me think of like an incense burner. You got the container that could hold incense and that's on a chain, suggesting maybe like a cleric character. Is it a good guy or is it an evil cleric, like a bad guy? So maybe is there an additional, I mean, is it not just 4 wizards? Maybe there's 5 now. So maybe they added a new boss character. Or, I mean, he looks pretty human to me, but where's the orc shaman or the orc warcaster, as they call Groshok in Doug Hopkins' Dread on the Horizon quest? Where's the orc guy? I know that there's a convention in fantasy where you've got orcs and they're like these brutish, like, I don't know, half pig, kind of like gorilla green, like reptilian, squat ogre troll looking guys. I mean, they're a mixture of like a lot of different monsters. They're humanoid, but they've got like big jaws and fangs and everything. But then you had this other fantasy trope of the half-orc or the half-orc. They call them different things, where it's like they're a little bit more human, a little bit less orc, but I mean, maybe they still got tusks and, glowing eyes and green skin, but they're stronger and, they could be good, they could be evil, they could be in between, neutral, you never know. I mean, in Warhammer Fantasy and Warhammer Fantasy RPG, Fantasy Battle, Fantasy RPG, they did have half-orcs. And I can't remember if Dungeons and Dragons did, but I think nowadays it's kind of considered passe, and it's just like, no, they're just orcs. But I'm thinking, like, could he be the orc warcaster? I was kind of thinking maybe there's an angle. I mean, this is completely speculative. Maybe Groshok's daughter is like a character you redeem. Maybe she's good. I mean, I don't know. That could be a controversial storyline. It's like, why can't you just have a villain that's bad and you got to take him out? Like, why do they have to have a redemption arc? But some people like those. I mean, those could be interesting. Would it make a monster more sympathetic if they looked more human and less monstrous? I mean, Beauty and the Beast has its fans too. Who knows? I don't know. That it seems more far-fetched to say that that's supposed to be the orc shaman. To me, it looks more like Sir Ragnar, or you know what? It could be a fake out. It could be a totally different figure that has nothing to do with HeroQuest. That's another theory. Or could it be a mercenary? Well, I'm not sure. I mean, he's got a sword, so is it a swordsman? But what's that flail in his hand, or what's that incense burner, or is it a severed head? Maybe it's a severed head that's just, he's hanging it, holding it by its hair or something. But it kind of looks like a rope or a chain or something. Or is it an upside down mace? Is it a magical item? I mean, he's wearing armor. Yeah, it looks like some scale armor and sort of a waistcoat over it. I don't know. I don't know what that character is. I'm just wildly guessing. Stormmaster's pretty obvious. He's got his staff. Necromancer, pretty death themed, evil wizard. But then what is this character to the second from the left? Don't know what that is. It's very hard for me to tell. Let me zoom in a little bit and try to see if I can see any more detail. I'm sure already there's people analyzing this with like AI and stuff to try to figure it out. Okay, so in one hand, and you can see it's kind of like curved, it's bent. He's got this, it looks like a warhammer or a maul, like a big, like bludgeoning instrument. But what's this other thing? His hand, it's hard for me to tell if like his arm is gone and he's just got like this column, or is this like a cross shape or something? Is this supposed to be like one big piece? I'm thinking of that anime, like Trigun, where he's got that big cross-shaped gun that he carries with him. Of course, that'd be pretty futuristic for HeroQuest, the medieval fantasy style. Is it like a cannon? Is his arm a cannon, or is he holding this? Or is this like a porter who's carrying gear for everyone? I do not know. But it seems very unwieldy, whatever it is. What could it be? Or maybe this guy has nothing to do with HeroQuest. Maybe this figure is not HeroQuest at all. Maybe this is, I don't know, Talisman or Heroscape or Betrayal. But still, it's intriguing. And I mean, the lack of helmet and kind of a, I don't know, shabby appearance. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking, could he be a mercenary? Maybe they've got other mercenaries this time besides just the ones that are familiar. I mean, we saw that scout, we think is a scout. What if there's a guy who's got like a lantern and a sword who helps you somehow? Maybe this guy has, I don't know, a battering ram to knock down doors or something, and he's got a hammer. Maybe he can, oh, I know. What if this is like a jackhammer so he can smash through like fallen block traps? Maybe he's a trap disarmer guy. I don't know. It would be very out of the ordinary, very creative. But I've often said, Wizards of Morcar, it's not as nostalgic as some of the other HeroQuest releases. And so maybe they've felt freer to tinker with it and change things and alter things. I mean, these designs seem very faithful, very reminiscent of the old thing. Change it just enough so that it doesn't interfere with any IP with Warhammer, but still reminds you of the old character, kind of preserves the cool features of it. So I don't know. I don't know what this guy is supposed to be. What is it on his back or in his hand? Is it a rolled up tent maybe? Like he's carrying like shelter? I don't know. Or a giant scroll? It's really hard to tell. I don't know what it's supposed to be. So these two characters are a mystery, but the others pretty easy to tell. So let's take a look at some images from Wizards of Morcar. This is courtesy of Yield In. And again, just commenting on this stuff for informational purposes. So you can see these are images on Yield In of the various Wizards of Morcar. So you can already see what it looks like here. So in the original expansion from 1992, you had your quest book, of course, with only 5 quests and no ending text at all. You had all these men-at-arms cards for the mercenaries. There's really only 4 types in the original, just like Frozen Horror: halberdier, crossbowman, scout, and swordsman. But they gave you like 23 cards, and they said, well, it was just in case you lose some of them or they get damaged. One theory was that they had like, to cut out the sheet of cards, and so they had to print that many, so they weren't just going to throw away like a bunch of cards from each sheet because it was kind of a small expansion. But they really only need to have one of each. But they could have multiples in case, you want to, I don't know, just have a visual representation, a reminder of how many of these mercenaries you have. Now, the problem with the mercenaries is always, well, each hero is controlling like a certain number of these hirelings, right? These henchmen. And it's like, how do you remember who's got what? Because maybe the wizard hires a crossbowman and a halberdier, and the dwarf hires a halberdier and two scouts. And, it's just like, okay. So one way to do it would be to have like the colorful rims, the little boots. That'd be a cool way to do it. Or you could make them unique designs. I think that would be very, very interesting if each character was unique. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, enough of the speculation. Let's look at some more of these images. So you got your treasure cards. So you've got the magical traps, the fire bursts. You've got poison, which is different than the poison in the Frozen Horror. And it shows mercenaries succumbing to the poison, but they never search for treasures, so it can't actually happen. You got the potion of charm, you got the magical aptitude, you got the potion of magic resistance. Oh yeah, poison does a body point of damage instead of mind points in this one. Potion of alchemy would turn a piece of equipment into gold, basically. Because remember, in the European version, you didn't have the selling back to the armory and half price mechanic. So it's like, this is, oh, finally I can turn something that I don't need into gold. Of course, you've bought everything, so what would you buy? Because there was no alchemist shops in the European version. Then you had your hero spells, of course, I've showed these already, and they all depict the wizard, but the elf could use these as well. But here is what the High Mage looks like. So this is one of those Wizards of Morcar. He's the first bad guy you fight, like big bad guy. Now in the original HeroQuest, you would have used the generic Chaos Warlock, or the Dread Sorcerer in the new one, to represent the guy that you fight. But here, each one was unique, and he had a set of cards. See that? So very similar art there. So if we kind of take a look, okay, so he's got the, we'll cycle back again. Dispel, Escape, Madness, Rust, Strands of Binding, Wall of Flame. So I've already done a video where I kind of went over each of these cards and how these powers are different than the game system dread spells or chaos spells that North American players are familiar with, even if they have the same name. But yeah, there he is. So that pose is different than the figure, but still, it's pretty close. We've got the Necromancer, and as you can see, yes, he does not have, I mean, it's in his other hand. He does not have a scythe. He's got instead that like curved blade, like a sacrificial knife or a ceremonial dagger. But he's got Call Skeleton, Deathbolt, Fear, Raise the Dead, Skulls of Doom, Summon Mummy. We'll cycle back here. But he's kind of got this interesting headdress. But a lot of skulls. So he doesn't have that fancy headdress this time. So that's kind of a letdown. But I mean, the cool weapon kind of makes up for it a little bit. Skulls of Doom. You got the Orc Shaman. This is the interesting one. I mean, he looks to me like a court jester or a clown of some kind. He's got a little rattle that has a little face on it or a little skull on it. And he's got this kind of almost court jester or Santa looking hat. He's got a spear with sort of some feathers and other things. I mean, I'm sure it'd be fun to paint. But his powers, Orc Berserker, Sharpened Blades, Shield of Protection, Spirit of Vengeance, Summon Goblins, Summon Orcs. Now, if you're the type who thinks Shaman means you transform into other creatures, I guess this doesn't fit the bill at all. All of his powers are about either bringing goblins or orcs into battle or powering them up, basically. But yeah, we don't see anything that really looks like that in the list. Then again, what if it's this guy here? What if this is supposed to be his little magical thing? Instead of that little rattle, he's got this instead. Kind of an incense burner or a severed head, I don't know, or a flail, magical flail maybe. And then he's got this blade instead of, I don't know. It If he painted him green, I could believe it. Does he look like this guy? Not really. So I don't know. Maybe we don't see the Orc Shaman yet, or the Orc Warcaster. Let's take another look here. So we've got the Stormmaster. Now, one of his spells, of course, the Lightning Bolt, shows the High Mage casting it, even though it should be the Stormmaster. So his Blinding Sleet, Earthquake, Hurricane, Lightning Bolt, Thieving Wind, and Wall of Ice. So there, he almost kind of looks like a prophet from the old days, but he's uh, he's a bad guy. He's got a wooden staff. He's got a cloak. It'll cycle back here in a moment. But yeah, magicians come in all shapes and sizes. But he's a little scruffier, a little more rough around the edges. And, maybe for good reason. He's getting pelted by all these storms and things. But yeah, he's got this wild beard. I guess his hair is kind of like whipping up in the wind, which you could interpret as horns, maybe. Kind of like this, but this looks much more like a growth coming out of his head, or it could be an ornate headdress. Okay, take that headdress off and put it on this guy. Of course, then maybe they thought he just looked too much like a kindly old man with a stick. You know, I always thought of Zargon as looking like this, without the horns. So give him a book in his hand, and there he is. But maybe they want their monsters to look more monstrous and their evil guys to look more obviously evil and scary. Because even though we adults play it, at its heart, it's a kid's game, a family game. So anyway, I'm sure there'll be lots of speculation now online, and those people who are going to pick out things that I didn't see, who are going to point out things that I didn't know about. But still, it's cool that these leaks just keep on coming. So maybe in 3 days' time, or certainly within a week, we'll know more, and we'll actually see where all this stuff fits in, and if we've been fooled. Because if this is fake, it's a pretty darn good fake. They really got me. Got them. So, all right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Yeah, you know what? Let's just take a few minutes and let's look at the HeroQuest Fans Discord. So, spoilers, everybody. So we got the new release spoilers and the rumor mill HeroQuest in the news sections, and we're going to take a closer look at some of the things people are saying, just in case somebody said something really awesome that totally blows my theories out of the water, as often happens. Let's see. Okay, so Bohemius is saying, my guess he's Morcar, a Hammersmith Forge Master in connection with the golems. Okay, so there were some other pictures posted. Now, people have started posting like everything that they see on AliExpress that looks anything like a HeroQuest figure. And already there's a few where it's like, nope, those are part of other games. So there's like a troll that was part of some other crowd-funded game. So let's not assume that these are HeroQuest. But yeah, here I am making all this wild speculation. The bases look similar. Okay, so somebody was showing this. So can you see that? These might not be HeroQuest. To me, the style looks different, but what do I know? I mean, look at those oval bases. I mean, a lot of figures nowadays, they use that supposedly 28 millimeter scale, 1-inch round bases or oval bases. These almost look like robots, automatons, but they've got armor, kind of a quasi like Warhammer looking armor. But look at these very cartoonish. You've got this monster treasure chest with a bunch of eyes. So a mimic, very D&D kind of thing. But people have loved putting mimics in HeroQuest for years. So I think it could work. And this looks like a door with legs. So is that another mimic? Like you're going to try to go through the door and it's going to attack you? Magical constructs. So these could be statues that have been brought to life or robots. Um, who knows? I don't know. When I see stuff like this, I don't immediately assume HeroQuest, like maybe HeroScape or maybe Dungeons and Dragons or something. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe these are in HeroQuest now. Maybe they're just going nuts. A stone golem, so like a rock man, basically, uh, was one of the planned characters for the Dwarf Quest pack, but there was nothing about mimics. And what would a mimic be? Like you search for treasure and oh, just kidding, it's actually a wandering monster that attacks you. It's just kind of a more creative way of doing that, I guess. A door. Okay, you think it's a door, but it attacks you. I mean, this is just a more fun way to do it, I guess, to just say, okay, we've got a cool miniature. And the color is weird, but as we know, AliExpress uses weird colors sometimes. So these might not be HeroQuest, but just throwing that out there. So that was also posted by the same person, Archean. Who is this mysterious person? But anyway, thank you. He's trying to throw us off the scent. I kind of hope these are scrapped and not final. They don't have the same appeal like the original ones, but yes, it certainly seems like the Wizards from Wizards of Morcar. So, Glasgow Gargoyle commenting on the blue color. Is number 5 Nyshak, the Orc Shaman? Well, his Grashak is the name of the Orc Shaman from the original, and Nyshak is supposed to be his daughter. But who is his daughter? Is she an orc also? Is she adopted? I mean, I couldn't really tell if any of those were meant to be female characters. It's really hard to tell. Yep. So this was posted at 9:30 in the morning. So it's like again, I'm almost like a whole day late. Okay. So I think that's it. Thank you for the participation. Appreciate the leaks, whoever leaked it. So let's look at the rumor mill. Do we have anything here? Dirt in the grime, the damages. Look like they were thrown in the garbage. Yeah. Sikashem is commenting, I saw the posting on AliExpress of the female wizard, the gender swap scout, with my own eyes. Didn't see the posting of the wizard, though. Okay, so we're just talking. Yeah, Merlin's got some comments. My first thoughts. I like Baruch, a modern version, yet true to the classic. I'm okay with Fanrax. Fanrax is the Necromancer. Baruch is a Stormmaster. Groshok is the Orc Shaman. And the High Mage, I forget his name. Instantly recognizable, and I understand the change from a pharaoh-like helmet to a hood. I prefer the dagger over the scythe. As the new mini, now reminds me of a boss in Sword and Sorcery board game. Or it could be like the leader of the skeletons. Nyshak looks rather bland, might be the lack of detail. If the clothing is fur textured rather than flat, might make a difference. The High Priest of Sirocco, this one is disappointing to me. Well, Zanrath. Zanrath was a classic wizard in HeroQuest. Pointy hat, long beard, staff robes, mysterious keys. The new figure reminds me of a Mortal Kombat character ready to throw the hat to decapitate an enemy, like Kung Lao. I think it's mostly the robe is missing. The unknown figure, my thoughts, especially when seeing the golems and the other image went to artificer hero. Could be interesting. I don't know much about these artificers. Are they like inventors? They build like clockwork knights and things? I don't know. I'm not as steeped in some of this game lore and tropes, but yeah, it seems like they're reaching for stuff in popular fantasy to have interesting characters, either as bad guys or as playable characters or mercenaries. In general, I think the replacement of 2 original wizards is too much and unnecessary. These 4 foul minions of Morcar have been part of my HeroQuest lore for many decades. Getting behind the Groshok replacement was relatively easy thanks to how it was done with the lead up. With Zanrath, I hope there's some explanation in the story. What I hope for is that the design team made important gameplay improvements, spells, addition of artifacts, interesting quests, etc., rather than cosmetic changes for the sake of it. Given the very high quality of previous expansions, including the amazing updates in Ogre Horde, I feel optimistic. So, end quote. So that's Merlin. And yeah, that's a good comment. A lot of good stuff in there. If it's Q1 2026, then we'll get box art. Don't threaten to riot. We're just kidding around. Okay. The old Wizards of Morcar box was a small expansion. Against the Ogre Horde was a big expansion in the past, so maybe Wizards of Morcar will be also a small expansion. I don't know about that. I think both of these expansions were big in the sense that they have a lot of content. I mean, you'll notice that the modern HeroQuest expansions they add more. So there's always extra things that weren't in the original. Even if it's just extra cards or duplicates of certain miniatures or dice or furniture, there's always add-ons. You could say the original Against the Ogre Horde box was big because the sprue that had all the ogres on it was big. And you could say the Wizards of Morcar one was big because the sprue with all the mercenaries on it was big. And you take away the sprues, of course, you have these pre-assembled figures in the modern HeroQuest, so who knows? But they could make it big or small. I'm guessing that this Wizards of Morcar remake is going to be a big expansion, like Frozen Horror or Rise of the Dread Moon, because when we saw that store leak on the Australian game site, it had Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, and it had Wizards of Morcar. And Wizards of Morcar was more expensive. The price was higher, even though it was in Aussie dollars. And I think the description of the box was different. I can't remember exactly if they had measurements or if they had weight, but it's like the Wizards of Morcar one was greater. So turns out Joe Manganiello's Crypt of Perpetual Darkness, it comes out in retail, and it's the same size as Return of the Witch Lord and Keller's Keep. Actually, it was pointed out to me, no, that's not quite right. If you set the box of Joe's pack next to like Spirit Queen's Torment or Prophecy of Teller or whatever, you can see Joe's box is just a little bit taller, like a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch taller. Even though they didn't really need the extra space, they made it bigger. So for whatever reason, maybe they didn't want it as crunched in there, like scrunched, possibly damaging the pieces inside. So anyway, but it's still much smaller than like Frozen Horror or Mage of the Mirror or the remake of Against the Ogre Horde. So I think it's going to be a big box, and I think that will have plenty of room for all these plastics that we're seeing or something similar. That one has been scrubbed with AI. This is the actual photo from AliExpress. Yep. So that's Fairweather Man. So yeah, I presume these guys are going to make their own videos with much higher production values than mine. Great. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's get that discussion going. Okay, Storm Wizard, Necromancer, High Mage female. Well, now wait a minute. We're going to get into this again. Are those pectoral muscles or are those bosoms? I don't know. You got the skirt. I mean, the swapping of the sexes in some of these characters, sometimes it catches you off guard. So I don't know. Is a mage male or is it a magus? I guess a magus. I mean, who knows? Well, then there was Amalgamash's video where he was saying, well, what if you're not just fighting these guys? What if you're fighting like the children of each of them? So, you got Groshok's daughter, you got Maurush's, niece, you got uh, Zanrath's nephew. Maybe there's like junior versions of each of these, or they could just use the same figure for both. You've got Grak and you've got Ulag, and it's all the same miniature in the original. So lots of discussions. Okay, yeah, here's a nice picture of the vintage figures. So you can see, does he have a rock in his hand? I guess I always thought he had a clenched fist, but the Stormmaster, yeah, has something in his hand. They look very flat in this picture, but it's just because of the lighting, because they're trying to overexpose the lighting because the original figures are so dark looking with the dark blue that it's hard to see some of the details if they're not painted. But yeah, this is what the originals looked like. So High Mage, Necromancer, Stormmaster, Orc Shaman. Yep. Okay, and then I was talking about the app. That's kind of boring now, but it is interesting that the Betrayal official app expires on Halloween. So it's that's only 11 days from now. So if you're going to get the Betrayal app, get it now, just in case they delist it. All right. Well, that's our discussion, and I'm sure as soon as I post this, somebody's going to see something that I missed. Oh well, you can't win them all. But I did want to talk about it, so thanks for your patience and your time, and we'll see more hopefully soon. Thanks.